Welcome back and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak. And now we're going to kickstart this segment by taking a look at the Daily Trust newspaper. Front page here is major story, of course, is on the $6 billion Mambilla power contract deal. There seemed to be a quiet, extreme silence when it comes to this. And Obasanjo Buhari to testify in Paris court. A lot of issues are happening in the country, and Daily Trust is bringing you this big mind-blowing story. Make sure you pick this and get to reading this on page 4 of this newspaper. Now below that we see Jonathan to Nigerians, don't jackpot over hardship. Okay, what other solution do you have for us, former President Goodluck Jonathan? You find that on page 12. Negative portrayal of Fulani unwarranted. This is according to Kano governor. Israel-Hamas truce displaced Gazans head home through rubbles. Now we saw how the ceasefire started. The process of it started yesterday, 19th of January 2025. Now all eyes is on Israel and Palestine. We're hoping to see a positive result out of that. Beside that, we see a pictorial of the scene of the tanker explosion that happened in Dikko, Warara local government area of Niger State on Saturday. And it says the Niger tanker explosion, 86 buried so far, 43 hospitalized, and others still missing. Their family members cannot identify these people. Writers are saying, I lost 6 relatives. Another is saying similar incidents killed 265 in 4 months. Now, this is according to the federal government. At the top of the page, below the headmaster, we see tax bills for passage March. Presidential committee as saying the federal government re-awards Abuja-Kaduna road contract. And hardship, 70 million Nigerians to get 75,000 naira each. At this point in time, that we're saving, planning on saving money to use in bigger contracts, do we need the handout? That is the question for Nigerians. Details of that you'd find on page 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Now, these are some of the stories that you'd find on Daily Trust today, Monday. Now, moving on to other newspapers. Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper this morning, where a major story is talking about, I beg your pardon, the major story is on the posers over checks, balances as the federal government enforces council autonomy funding. You find this on page 6. Yoruba Ronu Ndume, CDWI resist the tax reform bills. There seems to be a pushback still. Gunmen assassinate cleric during church service in Ogun. Dangote explains PMS X depot price adjustment. 18 electricity towers damaged in 5 days despite surveillance. Is there surveillance though? Soludo unveils Anambra Homeland Security Law, a new outfit. Telecoms subscribers kick as Minister Defense tariff hike. Africa's economy at crossroad as Trump's second coming strokes uncertainty. And we have the procurement contract frauds account for 90% of Nigeria's corruption cases. These are some of the stories that you'd find on the Guardian newspaper. Now, let's quickly. All right, let's take a look at Punch. NLC faults fresh petrol price hike, says the federal government is sensitive. Labor fears hike will fuel food crisis and increase in line with the rising crude price. This is according to Dangote. You find that on page 31. Niger explosion. Tinubu, Buhari, others mourn as death toll hits 86. The LP crisis, that's the top of the page. OBOT's caretaker panel drags Abure before Supreme Court. Mass deportation fear. Border closure as Trump returns to White House. Edo Tribunal police tighten security as violence rises. Below that, we see Gaza, where you and others cheer as freed Israeli reunite with families. 89,000 Nigerians denied Schengen visa in 2 years. This is according to the report. Catholic Church suspends Delta priest over secret U.S. wedding. Interesting. Arik shareholders tackle AMCON over 455 billion naira debts claim. Now, these are some of the stories that you'd find on the Punch. Quickly joining us to dissect the front page virtually, we have the former director of news of Voice of Nigeria, Ben Sherman. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me once again.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, let's talk about the major story, talking about the $6 billion Mambilla power contract deal. This is something that there's been a lot of echo and re-echoing. It became an echo chamber in Nigeria, talking about how much has been put into that Mambilla project and nothing came out of it. Now, currently, there's a case in a Paris court where Obasanjo and Buhari are to testify on that one. Now, this is a case that should even be handled in Nigeria. But now we have to go and make defense outside the country. What is your take on this controversy?
Yeah, you see, when it was alleged that whenever anybody needed money, he needed to go to this Mambilla power project, a project that is around 40 years old, nothing to show for it. It ought to have been one of the largest, in fact, the largest in Africa, not until Ethiopia overthrew it with its own project. But Ethiopia is working. Theirs is moving. In our own case, you could see court cases involving the project at the point, in fact, virtually from Obasanjo up to Buhari, you could see that the case kept on lingering. At the point, Obasanjo said, look, this project is just not viable the way it was going. So at the point, the contract that was given, he annulled it. But the minister of power then, Adogoroye, actually said it was going to be a kind of build, operate, and transfer. You know, that was that the Nigerian government didn't need to pay any money. But before that could come, there were cancellation of contracts here and there. And you see, this forward and back kind of a thing, people coming, you don't see their investment profile. You just come with one portfolio, one back like this, with the suit and tie, and they tell you they are investors. You don't do due diligence, and you begin to carry such large contracts and you give them. Obasanjo's stand is that, look, when you see a minister trying to approve billions of naira, it doesn't have the power. It has to go to the Federal Executive Council. But you just saw ministers giving contracts that were far above them. And that is why we're having this mess. People are now suing us abroad because they know back home here, they will not get justice. And if you therefore get justice abroad, it follows that any Nigerian property abroad, be it an embassy building, be it cash, I mean, anything you have, they can just simply grab it, sell and pay for all these things. It has to be something like a garnishing kind of a judgment.
Yeah, I mean, this seemed to be a recurring situation. We saw how Nigerian government and Ogun State government had to defend the PNID case and allegations also that happened outside Nigeria. Now, it's great news that Nigeria won that, but then we saw how there was a seizure of even airlines were threatened to take it from Nigerian government. With all of this happening, are we going to continue to see this situation like this when Nigerian government make a deal, either they renege, they go back on it, or they don't see it through, or there's a lot of damage that comes back and Nigerians have to, you know, fall in and get in line with all of this losses that we keep making?
Yeah, you see, even if you're talking of reneging, you have to look at the facts on ground before you even go into, okay, I'll not honor this agreement. Therefore, it is right, time has come. Today is the 20th of January, 2025. Let the Nigerian government look at all contracts that state governments went and signed without the federal government knowing. Let the same federal government also look at all contracts that are standing with some other companies, private companies abroad and governments abroad, so that they know the status of everything. If there are issues to be challenged, time has come for them to be challenged.
Okay.
But when you look at the APRD contract that time, thank God judgment was on the side of Nigeria. Some people simply wanted to scam Nigeria. Now, if therefore those people were sanctioned abroad and their Nigerian collaborators also sanctioned, then there is a precedence. But let us look at due diligence.
Okay.
Are these people, do they have registered, do they have the financial muscle, the capability to render these services to Nigeria? Outside that, it might be a scam that some people planned to do against us. But if it is not a scam, we are just in for it. We have to have quite a lot of legal big heads to defend
right.
Nigeria so that we
All
come
right.
out clean.
I mean, still talking on contracts, we've seen over the weekend what happened when it comes to the tragedy of tanker falling and costing lives. Now the federal governments are re-awarding Abuja-Kaduna road contract. What's your take on that?
Well, where a contractor fails to deliver according to the time limit, there has to be, if it is the side of government did not pay, then it is different. But if government has paid and the contractor fails to deliver, there are terms of contract. If any site reneges, then there has to be consequences. And when there are delays, inflation is always the problem. And there are also some circumstances that could cause those delays. Sometimes those at the highways doing the construction also need some protection in terms of kidnapping. And Abuja, Kaduna, Kano has not been that easy for many contractors. But you could see that the Chinese will always be doing their jobs, irrespective of what is happening. And talking of this accident is just unfortunate. Another big thing has happened, loss of lives. We should begin to ferry our petrol via the railway system. We should also allow these petrol tankers to move in the night.
Okay, let's talk about hardship now. So far, Nigerians have been pushing against, giving palliative, saying, I think you better just make the country better. But now the government is saying they are going to give 75 million to Nigerians, and each person is to get 75,000 naira due to the hardship. Do you think that would solve Nigeria's problem right now?
Let me tell you an example of where I come from. I'm from southern Kaduna. How much is 25 kg of ginger? It's far above that amount. But give me the fertilizer instead, and I farm ginger. I bring more fertilizer. I bring more ginger. So if you say I sit down here, you give me 75,000 naira. It can't. How many tubers of yam? How many gallons of palm oil with little Maggi? That money is gone. But turn that same money into fertilizer. Turn that same money into some tools for people, even for mechanics. Turn those tools to what will aid a farmer. Even in terms of what you call post-harvest losses, you have it nice. So why don't we? Mango in Benue, mango in many parts of this country, all wasted, no companies. Why don't we invest in those areas? This money can also be plowed into what you call, how do we come out of this insecurity on the farms? Can we use that money to find peace in our bushes, in our trenches, so that people can farm and create more wealth instead of giving me handouts, palliatives? I am hungry. It just say take 5 naira, go and buy gari. Yeah. It doesn't augur well. But if you give me the cassava seedlings, I'll farm.
All right, quickly, let's talk on this fuel price. NLC are faulting the fresh petrol price hike. Says the federal government is insensitive. What do you think about that? We're back to an increment after Nigerians enjoyed a bit of some kind of level of subsidy from Dangote refinery.
Well, maybe if we go by what Dangote is saying, he has voluntarily been nose diving or bringing down his pump price of petrol, but today he has also increased. You ask him why? He said the cost of crude oil at the international market has gone that high, And he's not Father Christmas. He's into business to make profit. Even though you can see that on his side, is not dirty profit as some people will want to make it. But again, some people will cash in, begin to hurt this and make it very, very scarce. And like Malakari will say, he said, when you have a full tank, petrol tanker, and you take it out of Nigeria, you make millions. But if you do legal business with it, your profit is just around 500,000 naira. So you now see that people will start going abroad to, I mean, when I say abroad, I'm defining it like the Nigerian man. Go to Benin, go to Niger, go to Chad, go to Cameroon, that is abroad. You go and sell abroad, in as much as there is international boundary crossing. And so they make more money over there. And that is why Nigeria will continue to suffer, because sometimes on laws, even though they are there, those willing to implement them are not willing.
Indeed, we need implementation, because Nigeria cannot continue. We refuse to take that, saying Nigeria would continue to suffer, would continue to hold them accountable until they do right by Nigerians. But thank you so much, Ben Shamek, for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. And with that, viewers, we've come to the end of today's episode of Daybreak. Hope you'll join us tomorrow for another episode. Please do stick around. Top of the hour, Emmanuel Fashemi will bring you 360 Sport. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Do have a lovely Monday, and please stay safe and be wise out there. Bye for now.